On June 24th, 2025, a senseless act of violence would claim the life of 16-year-old Trey Wright. It happened in the small community of Johnsonville, South Carolina. What began as a teenage dispute would escalate into a coordinated attack that would shock the region and ultimately result in 9 teenagers facing murder charges under South Carolina's controversial hand of one, hand of all law. This is the story of Trey Wright, a promising young athlete whose life was cut tragically short, and the complex web of events that led to one of the most disturbing cases of teen violence in recent history. So Trey was 16 and he was a sophomore at Johnsonville High School. By all accounts, he was a well-liked young man who had found his passion in athletics. Though he didn't start playing football until the 8th grade, he quickly excelled at the sport, earning 2 touchdowns in his very first game. During his sophomore year, he started on junior varsity, but was promoted to varsity halfway through the season, and this was a testament to his natural ability and dedication. Trey also played baseball and loved riding dirt bikes and spending time outdoors. Beyond sports, Trey had been working at a local deer processor since he was 13 years old. His bosses treated him like family, and his mother, Ashley, never missed one of his games. She described him as someone who never met a stranger and could make friends wherever he went. Trey had recently gotten his driver's license, and his mother bought him a truck for Christmas. With this newfound freedom, he began attending car shows closer down to Myrtle Beach, and that decision would unknowingly put him in the path of teenagers who would later take his life. In the spring of 2025, Trey began dating 17-year-old Gianna. She was from Myrtle Beach. According to his mother, Trey was smitten with the cheerleader, telling his family that dating her felt like a dream come true. The relationship was intense, but it was brief. They had known each other for no longer than 2 months. And despite this short time frame, Trey had made sure his family got to know her, often having her around when his mother was present because he genuinely liked her and wanted his family's approval. It was through Gianna and the Myrtle Beach car show scene that Trey would meet the group of teenagers who would ultimately orchestrate his murder. On June 24th, 2025, on the evening of June 24th, Trey was at a close friend's house on North First Neck Road in Johnsonville, exactly where his mother said he was supposed to be. According to witness accounts, an argument escalated between Trey and his girlfriend Gianna throughout the day, and it involved provocative messages exchanged via Snapchat. What would happen next would forever change multiple families' lives. At approximately 11:41 p.m., Deputy Riley Free of the Florence County Sheriff's Office responded to reports of a shooting involving juveniles. Upon arrival, he discovered a chaotic scene with multiple individuals present and many appearing distressed and emotional. In the roadway, Trey was lying there, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds to the chest. Deputy Free immediately applied pressure to the wounds using a towel handed to him by someone at the scene and tried to maintain pressure until EMS could arrive and Trey could be loaded into an ambulance. Witnesses at the scene reported that the shooter had fled in a white Mazda SUV driven by a female and accompanied by 3 male passengers. The investigation would reveal a very disturbing, premeditated plot. According to police reports, Gianna had driven approximately 1 hour from Myrtle Beach to Johnsonville, bringing with her 19-year-old Devan Raper and several other teenagers. Investigators determined that it was Gianna who knew Raper was armed and there would be a confrontation, and it would most likely lead to violence. These statements had been made in her presence, so she was aware. After the verbal altercation, Raper allegedly shot Trey multiple times at close range. One of the teenagers present recorded the shooting on their cell phone, a fact that would later be used as evidence in this case. The police report noted that witnesses observed multiple individuals around Trey as he lay screaming in the roadway while his lungs were filling with blood from the chest wounds. On June 25th, Devan of Conway was arrested and charged with murder and possession of a weapon during a violent crime. On June 30th, Gianna, who's 17, was denied bond after being charged with accessory before the fact of a felony. Investigators alleged that she was the one who brought Raper to the scene, knowing he was armed and that violence was likely. As the investigation continued, the scope of the conspiracy became clear, and under South Carolina's hand of one, hand of all law, formerly known as accomplice liability, anyone who willingly participates in a crime can be held equally responsible for the outcome. On August 5th of 2025, additional arrests were announced. 3 more Myrtle Beach teenagers were charged with murder. Hunter Kendall, 18, Corrine Belviso, who is 18, and Sydney Kearns, 17. Later on, 2 more were added. Braylon Thompson, 17, and Jaden Auclair, 18. Additionally, 2 other juveniles were charged, though their identities were not released due to their age. Gianna's charges were upgraded from accessory to murder as the investigators uncovered the full extent of the premeditation that was involved in this. So, on July 28th, a South Carolina Circuit Court judge denied bond for Devan. However, several of the other defendants were granted bond, leading to a lot of controversy when some posted photos of themselves outside of the county detention center after release. The prosecutor's office filed motions to modify bond conditions and to prevent additional social media posts, as the original bond orders had not directly addressed that issue. Why they would want to post these photos is beyond me. But of the 9 teenagers ultimately charged with the murder, 7 were released on bond, many under their parents' supervision, a fact that particularly frustrated Trey's family, given that these same parents had apparently not been supervising their children the night of the murder. The case hinges on South Carolina Code 16-1-40, which states, "A person who aids in the commission of a felony or is an accessory before the fact in commission of a felony by counseling, hiring, or otherwise procuring the felony to be committed is guilty of a felony and, upon conviction, must be punished in the manner prescribed for the punishment of the principal felon." This centuries-old legal doctrine, sometimes referred to as manus in manu, or the hand of one is the hand of all, means that all 9, most who aren't even old enough to vote, could potentially face life sentences for their role in what prosecutors argue was a coordinated murder plot. Now, Trey's mother. Throughout the legal proceedings, Trey's mother, Ashley, has remained very vocal for justice. She's expressed frustration with the bond conditions for the defendants and her determination to be her son's voice. Quote, "My baby never deserved not one thing that happened to him, period. He was 1 in a million, and he was good for people's souls. His happiness was so contagious. He always spread joy, and he was one of the most kind-hearted kids you'd ever meet." End quote. Lindsay has vowed to fight for justice if it takes every last breath she has. And what is particularly painful for Lindsay was learning that Gianna had shown up at the hospital after the shooting, before Trey's family even knew what had happened. Quote, I hugged her neck and was comforting her because I didn't know. End quote. This case raises some troubling questions about teen violence, social media's role in escalating these conflicts, and the appropriate application of accomplice liability laws to juvenile defendants. Jasmine Lauterbach, who was present at the scene and tried to comfort Trey as he lay dying, perhaps said it best, quote, I just hope that a huge lesson is learned from all of this. A lot of these kids nowadays try and play a little thug or gangster, and I mean, it's not worth it. My brother lost his life, but those kids also lost the rest of theirs, and I don't think the situation should have happened at all. End quote. The fact that one of the teenagers recorded the murder adds another layer of disturbing behavior that investigators and prosecutors are still trying to understand. As this case continues through the South Carolina court system, it will serve as a stark reminder of how quickly teenage conflicts can escalate into an irreversible tragedy. 9 people now face the possibility of life in prison for decisions made on a single night, while a promising 16-year-old athlete will never get the chance to fulfill his potential. The Trey Wright case is ultimately a story about choices. The choice to escalate rather than de-escalate. The choice to bring weapons into a teenage dispute. And the choice to participate in an act of coordinated violence that has destroyed many families. For Trey's family and friends, no amount of justice can bring him back. But they hope his story might prevent other families from experiencing the same devastating loss.